Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Chapter 22, Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis of Canto 10. This chapter describes how the marriageable daughters of the coward men worshipped Katyayani to get Lord Sri Krishna as their husband, and how Krishna stole the garments of the young girls and gave the girls benedictions. During the months of Margashish, every day early in the morning, the young daughters of the coward girls would take one another's hands and, singing in Krishna's transcendental qualities, go to the Yamuna to bathe. Desiring to obtain Krishna as their husband, they would then worship the goddess Katyayani with incense, flowers, and other items. One day the young gopis left their garments on the shore as usual and began playing in the water while chanting of Lord Krishna's activities. Suddenly, Krishna himself came there, took away all the garments, and climbed a nearby kadamba tree. Wanting to tease the gopis, Krishna said, "I understand how fatigued you gopis are from your austerities, so please come onto the shore and take back your clothes." The gopis then pretended to become angry and said the cold water of the Yamuna was giving them great pain. If Krishna did not give them back their garments, they said they would inform King Kamsa of all that had happened. But if he did give the clothes back, they would willingly carry out his orders in the mood of humble servants. Sri Krishna replied that he had no fear of King Kamsa, and that if the girls really intended to follow his command and be maidservants, they should each immediately come onto the shore and take their respective garments. The girls, trembling from cold, climbed out of the water with their two hands covering their private parts. Krishna, who felt great affection for them, again spoke, "Because while executing a vow you bathe in the water naked, you have committed an offense against the demigods. And to counteract it, you should offer obeisances with joined palms. Then your vow of austerity will achieve its full result." The gopis followed the instruction and folded their hands in respect, offered obeisances to Sri Krishna. Satisfied, he gave them back their clothing. But the young girls had become so attracted to him that they could not leave. Understanding their minds, Krishna said that he knew that they had worshipped Katyayani to get him as their husband. Because they had offered their hearts to him, their desire would never again become tainted by the mood of materialistic enjoyment. Just as fried barley corns can no longer grow into shoots. Next autumn, he told them their most cherished desire would be fulfilled. Then the gopis, fully satisfied, returned to Vraja, and Sri Krishna and his coward friends went off to a distant place to graze the cows. Sometime later, when the boys felt disturbed by a great heat of summer, they took shelter at the base of a tree that stood just like an umbrella. The Lord then said that the life of a tree is most excellent, for even while feeling pain, a tree continues to protect others from heat, rain, snow, and so on. With its leaves, flowers, fruits, shade, roots, bark, wood, fragrance, sap, ashes, pulp, and sprouts, a tree fulfills the desires of everyone. This kind of life is ideal. Indeed, said Krishna, the perfection of life is to act with one's vital energy, wealth, intelligence, and words for the benefit of all. After the Lord had glorified the trees in this way, the entire company went to the Yamuna, where the cowherd boys let the cows drink the sweet water and also drank some themselves. Shri Shukha Vacha Hemante Prathamen Masi Nandavraja Kamarika Cherur Havishyam Bhunjana Katyayanyach Archana Vratam. Shukadev Goswami said, during the first month of the winter season, the young unmarried girls of Gokula observed the vow of worshipping goddess Katyayani. For the entire month, they ate only unspiced khichdi. The word Hemante refers to the month of Margashish. From approximately middle of November to the middle of December, according to the Western calendar. In chapter 22 of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada comments that the gopis first ate havishyana, a kind of food prepared by boiling together moong dal and rice without any spices or turmeric. According to Vedic injunction, this kind of food is recommended to purify the body before one enacts a ritualistic ceremony. Aplutyam bhasi kalindya jalante chodite rune kritva pratikritim devim anarchur nrupashaikatim gandhay malyay surabhibhir balibhi dhupa deepakay uchavachais chopaharay pravala tandulay. My dear king, after they had bathed in the water of the Yamuna, just as the sun was rising, the gopis made an earthen deity of goddess Durga on the riverbank. Then they worshipped her with such aromatic substances as sandalwood pulp, along with other items both opulent and simple, including lamps, fruits, betel nuts, newly grown leaves, and fragrant garlands and incense. The word balibhi in this verse indicates offerings of clothing, ornaments, food, and so on. Katyayani Mahamahi Mahayoginyadishwari Nandagopasutam Devi Patim Me Kurute Namaha Iti Mantram Japantyasya Pujam Chakru Kumarika. Each of the young unmarried girls performed her worship while chanting the following mantra: O goddess Katyayani, O great potency of the Lord, O possessor of great mystic power and mighty controller of all, please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. According to various acharyas, the goddess Durga mentioned in this verse is not the illusory energy of Krishna called Maya, but rather the internal potency of the Lord known as Yoga Maya. The distinction between the internal and external or illusory potency of the Lord is described in the Narada Pancharatra, in the conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Janatyeka parakantam saiva durga tadatmika Ya para parama shaktir mahavishnu swarupini Yasya vijnana matrena paranam paramatmana Muhurta deva devasya praptir bhavati nanyatha Ekeyam prema sarvasva svabhava gokuleshwari Anaya sulabho jneya adi devo khileshwara Asya Avarika Shaktir Mahamaya Khileshwari Yaya Mukdam Jagat Sarvam Sarve Deha Bhimanina. The Lord's inferior potency known as Durga is dedicated to his loving service. Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is non-different from him. There is another superior potency whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of God himself. Simply by scientifically understanding the supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords. There's no other process to achieve him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval Lord, the Lord all that be. This internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe, and thus everyone within the universe falsely identifies themselves with the material body. From the above, we can understand that the internal and external, or superior and inferior potency of the Supreme Lord are personified as Yogamaya and Mahamaya respectively. The name Durga is sometimes used to refer to the internal superior potency as stated in the Pancharatra. In all mantras used to worship Krishna, the presiding deity is known as Durga. Thus, in the transcendental sound vibrations glorifying and worshipping the absolute truth, Krishna, the presiding deity of the particular mantra or hymn, is called Durga. The name Durga therefore refers also to that personality who functions as the internal potency of the Lord and who is thus on the platform of Shuddha Sattva, pure transcendental existence. This internal potency is understood to be Krishna's sister, known as Ekan Namsha or Subhadra. This is the Durga who was worshipped by the gopis in Vrindavan. Several acharyas have pointed out that ordinary people are sometimes bewildered and think that the names of Mahamaya and Durga refer exclusively to the external potency of the Lord. Even if we accept hypothetically that the gopis were worshipping the external Maya, there is no fault on their part, since in their pastimes of loving Krishna they were acting as ordinary members of society. Srila Prabhupada comments in this regard. The Vaishnavas generally do not worship any demigod. Sri Narottam Das Thakur has strictly forbidden all worship of the demigods for anyone who wants to advance in pure devotional service, yet the gopis are beyond compare in their affection for Krishna. were seen to worship Durga. The worshippers of demigods also sometimes mention that the gopis also worship goddess Durga. But we must understand that the purpose of the gopis. Generally, people worship goddess Durga for some material benediction. Here, the gopis could adopt any means to satisfy or serve Krishna. That was a super excellent characteristic of the gopis. They worshipped the goddess Durga completely for 1 month in order to have Krishna as their husband. Every day they prayed for Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, to become their husband. The conclusion is that a sincere devotee of Krishna will never imagine any material quality to exist in the transcendental gopis, who are the most exalted devotees of the Lord. Their only motivation in all their activities was simply to love and satisfy Krishna. And if we foolishly consider their activities to be mundane in any way, it will be impossible for us to understand Krishna consciousness. Evam masam vratam cheru kumaryai Krishna chetasa bhadram kalim Samanarchur Bhuyananda Sutapati. Thus, for an entire month, the girls carried out their vow and properly worshipped the goddess Bhadrakali, fully absorbing their minds in Krishna and meditating upon the following thought: May the son of King Nanda become my husband. Ushasya Uthaya Gotraiswair Anyonya Baddha Bhava Krishna Muchar Jagur Yanta Kalindyam Snatum Anvaham. Each day they rose at dawn, calling out to one another by name. They all held hands and loudly sang the glories of Krishna while going to the Kalindi to take their bath. Nadya Kadachid Agatya Tire Nishpya Purvavat Vasamsi Krishnam Gayanto Vijahru Salile Muda. One day they came to the river bank and, putting aside their clothing as they had done before, happily played in water while singing the glories of Krishna. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this incident occurred on the day the young gopis completed their vow, which was a full moon day. To celebrate the successful completion of their vows, the girls invited young Radharani, the daughter of Rishabhanu and the special object of their affection, along with other important gopis, and brought them all to the river to bathe. Their playing in the water was meant to serve as the Avabhrita Snana, the ceremonial bath taken immediately upon the completion of a Vedic sacrifice. Srila Prabhupada comments as follows: It is an old system among Indian girls and women that when they take bath in the river, they place their garments at the bank and dip into the water completely naked. The portion of the river where the girls and women bathe was strictly prohibited to any male, and this is still the system. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing the minds of the unmarried young gopis, awarded them their desired object. They had prayed for Krishna to become their husband, and Krishna wanted to fulfill their desires. Bhagavam stad abhipretya Krishna yogeshwareshwara Vayasyar avritas tatra gatas tat karma siddhaye. Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Master of all Masters of Mystic Yoga, was aware of what the gopis were doing, and thus he went there surrounded by his young companions to award the gopis the perfection of their endeavor. As the Master of all Masters of Mystic Power, Lord Krishna could easily understand the desires of the gopis, and he could also fulfill them. The gopis, like all young girls from respectable families, considered the embarrassment of appearing naked before a young boy to be worse than giving up their lives. Yet Lord Krishna made them come out of the water and bow down to him. Although the bodily forms of the gopis were all fully developed, and although Krishna met them in a secluded place and brought them fully under his control, because the Lord is completely transcendental, there was not a trace of material desire in his mind. Lord Krishna is the ocean of transcendental bliss, and he wanted to share his bliss with the gopis on the spiritual platform, completely free of ordinary lust. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the companions of Krishna mentioned here were mere toddlers, 2 or 3. They were completely naked and were unaware of the difference between male and female. When Krishna went out to herd the cows, they followed him because they were so attached to him that they could not bear to be without his association. Tasam vasam supadaya nipam aruhya satvara hasadbi prahasan bale parihasam uvachaha. Taking the girl's garment, he quickly climbed on the top of the kadamba tree. Then as he laughed loudly and his companions also laughed, He addressed the young girls jokingly. Atra gatya bala kamam swam swam vasa pragrahyatam satyam bhruvani no narma yayuyam vrata karshita. Lord Krishna said, my dear girls, you may each come here as you wish and take back your garments. I'm telling you the truth and I am not joking with you, since I see you're fatigued from executing austere vows. Namayodita purvam va anritam tad ime vidhu ekaikasha prati chadvam saheveti sumadhyama. I've never before spoken a lie, and these boys know it. Therefore, slender-waisted girls, please come forward, either one by one or all together, and pick out your clothes. Tasya tat chelitam drishtva gopya prema paripluta vridita preksha chanyonyam jatahasana niryuyu. Seeing how Krishna was joking with them, the gopis became fully immersed in love for him. And as they glanced at each other, they began to laugh and joke among themselves, even in their embarrassment. But still they did not come out of the water. Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains in the verse as follows. The gopis were from most respectable families, and they might have argued with Krishna. Why don't you simply leave our clothes on the bank and the river and go away? Krishna might have replied, but there are so many of you that some of the other girls might take clothes belonging to another. The gopis would reply, we are honest and never steal anything. We never touch another's property. Then Krishna would say, that's true, then simply come and get your clothes. What is the difficulty? Then when the gopis saw Krishna's determination, they were filled with loving ecstasy. Although embarrassed, they were overjoyed to receive such attention from Krishna. He was joking with them as if they were his wives or girlfriends, and the gopis' only desire was to achieve such a relationship with him. At the same time, they were embarrassed to be seen naked by him. But still, they could not help laugh at his joking words, and even began to joke among themselves. One gopi urging another, go ahead, you go first, and let us see if Krishna plays any tricks on you. That we will go later. Evam bruvati govinde narmana kshipta chetasa akanta magna sitode depamanas tam abhruvan. As Shri Govinda spoke to the gopis in this way, his joking words completely captivated their minds. Submerged up to their necks in the cold water, they began to shiver. Thus they addressed him as follows. Shri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur gives the following example of the joking between Krishna and the gopis. Krishna, O bird-like girls, if you do not come here, then with these garments caught in the branches, I will make a swing and a hammock. I will need to lie down since I have spent the entire night awake and I'm now becoming sleepy. Gopis, our dear coward boy, your cows, greedy for grass, have gone into a cave, so you must quickly go there to herd them back on the proper path. Krishna, come now, my dear coward girls, you must quickly go from here to Raj and perform your household duties. Don't become a disturbance to your parents and other elders. Gopis, our dear Krishna, we do not go home for an entire month, for it is by the order of our parents and other elders that we are executing this vow of fasting, the Katyayani Vrat. Krishna, my dear austere ladies, I too, by the strength of seeing you, have now developed a surprising mood of detachment from family life. I wish to stay here for a month and execute the vow of dwelling in the clouds. And if you show mercy to me, I can come down from here and observe the vow of fasting in your company. The gopis were completely captivated by Krishna's joking words. But out of shyness, they submerged themselves in the water up to their necks. Shaking from the cold, they addressed Krishna as follows. Manayam boh kritas tvam tu nanda gopa satam priyam jani monga vraja slagyam dehi vasamsi vepita. The gopis said, Dear Krishna, don't be unfair. We know that you are the respectable son of Nanda and that you are honored by everyone in Braj. You're also very dear to us. Please give us back our clothes. We are shivering in the cold water. Sham sundarate dasya karavam tavoditam dehi vasamsi dharmagnya noche ragne bhruvam mahahe. O Shyam Sundara, we are your maidservants and must do whatever you say. Give us back our clothing. You know what the religious principles are, and if you don't give us our clothing, we will have to tell the king. Please. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhavato Yadi Me Dasyo Mayoktam Va Karishyatha Atragatya Vasamsi Pratichata Suchismita Noche Naham Pradasye Kim Krudo Raja Karishyati. The Supreme Personality of God had said, if you girls are actually my maidservants, and if you will desire do what I say, then come here with your innocent smiles, and let each girl pick up her clothes. If you don't do what I say, I won't give them back to you. And even if the king becomes angry, what can he do? Srila Prabhupada comments, when the gopis saw that Krishna was strong and determined, they had no alternative but to abide by his order. Tato Jalasayat Sarva Dharika Sitave Pita Panibhyam Yonim Achadya Proteru Sita Karshita. Then, shivering from the painful cold, all the young girls rose up out of the water, covering their pubic area with their hands. The gopis had assured Krishna that they were his eternal servants and would do whatever he said, and thus they were now defeated by their own words. If they delayed any longer, they thought some other man might come along, and this would be unbearable for them. The gopis loved Krishna so much that even in that awkward situation, their attachment to him was increasing more and more, and they were very eager to stay in his company. Thus, they did not even consider drowning themselves in the river because of the embarrassing situation. They concluded that they could do nothing but go forward to their beloved Krishna, putting aside their embarrassment. Thus, the gopis assured each other that there was no alternative and rose up out of the water to meet him. Bhagavan Ahata Vikshya Shuddha Bhava Prasadita Skande Nidhaya Vasamsi Prita Pro Vachasa Smritam. When the Supreme Lord saw how the gopis were struck with embarrassment, he was satisfied by their pure loving affection. Putting their clothes on his shoulder, the Lord smiled and spoke to them with affection. Srila Prabhupada comments, the gopis' simple presentation was so pure that Lord Krishna immediately became pleased with them. All the unmarried gopis who prayed to Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband were thus satisfied. A woman cannot be naked before any male except her husband. The unmarried gopis desired Krishna as their husband, and he fulfilled their desire in this way. For aristocratic girls like the gopis, standing naked before a young boy was worse than death, and yet they desired to give up everything for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. He wanted to see the power of their love for him, and he was completely satisfied by their unalloyed devotion. Yuyam vivastra yadapodhrita vrata vyagaha taitat tadudeva helanam badvanjalim murdhvanapanu taye Mahasa Kritva Namodho Vasanam Prigrayatam. Lord Krishna said, you girls bathe naked while executing your vow. That is certainly an offense against the demigods. To counteract your sin, you should offer obeisances while placing your joint palms above your head. Then you should take back your lower garments. Krishna wanted to see the full surrender of the gopis, and thus he ordered them to offer obeisances with their palms joined above their heads. In other words, the gopis could no longer cover their bodies. We should not foolishly think that Lord Krishna is an ordinary lusty boy enjoying the naked beauty of the gopis. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, and he was acting to fulfill the loving desire of the young coward girls of Vrindavan. In this world, we would certainly become lusty in a situation like this. But to compare ourselves to God is a great offense, and because of this offense, we will not be able to understand Krishna's transcendental position, for we will wrongly take him to be materially conditioned like ourselves. To lose transcendental sight of Krishna is certainly a great disaster for one trying to relish the bliss of the absolute truth. Ityachutena vihitam vraja bhala matva vivastra plavanam vrata chutim tad purtikamastada shesha karmanam sakshat kritam nemuravadya mrigayata. Thus the young girls of Vrindavan considered what Lord Achyuta had told them, accepted that they had suffered a fall down from their vow by bathing naked in the river, but they still desired to successfully complete their vow. And since Lord Krishna is himself the ultimate result of all pious activities, they offer their obeisances to him to cleanse away all their sins. The transcendental position of Krishna consciousness is clearly described here. The gopis decided that it was better to renounce their so-called family tradition and traditional morality and simply surrender unto the Supreme Lord Krishna. This does not mean that the Krishna consciousness movement advocates immoral activities. In fact, the devotees of ISKCON practice the highest standard of restraint and morality. But at the same time, we recognize the transcendental position of Krishna. Lord Krishna is God, and therefore has no material desire to enjoy young girls in sexual affair. As will be seen in this chapter, Lord Krishna was not at all attracted to enjoying the gopis. Rather, he was attracted to the love and wanted to satisfy them. The greatest offense is to imitate the activities of Lord Krishna in India. In India, there's a group called Prakriti Sahajiya who imitate these affairs of Krishna, trying to enjoy naked young girls in the name of worshipping Krishna. The ISKCON movement sternly rejects the mockery of religion, because the greatest offense is for a human being to ludicrously imitate the Supreme Personality Godhead. In the ISKCON movement, there are no cheap incarnations, and it is not possible for a devotee of this movement to promote himself to the position of Krishna. 500 years ago, Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who practiced strict celibacy throughout his student life, and at the age of 24 took sannyas, a lifelong vow of celibacy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rigidly avoided contact with women in order to carry out his vow of loving service to Krishna. When Krishna personally appeared 5,000 years ago, he exhibited these wonderful pastimes which attract our attention. We should not become envious or shocked when we hear that God can perform such pastimes. Our shock is due to our ignorance, because if we tried to perform these activities, our bodies would be afflicted by lust. Lord Krishna, however, is the supreme absolute truth, and is therefore never disturbed by any material desire whatsoever. Thus, this incident in which the gopis gave up normal standards in morality and raising their hands to their heads, bowed down in compliance with Krishna's order, is an example of pure devotional surrender and not a discrepancy in religious principles. In fact, the gopis' surrender is the perfection of all religion, and Srila Prabhupada describes in Krishna the Supreme Personality Godhead. The gopis were all simple souls, and whatever Krishna said, they took to be true. In order to be freed from the wrath of Varuna Dev, as well as to fulfill the desire end of their vows, and ultimately to please their worshipful Lord Krishna, they immediately abided by his order. Thus they became the greatest lovers of Krishna and his most obedient servitors. Nothing can compare to Krishna consciousness of the gopis. Actually, the gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. Dastat vanatha drishtva bhagavan devaki sutta vasam sitabhya prayachat karunastena yoshita toshita. Seeing them bow down like that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, gave them back their garments, feeling compassionate toward them and satisfied by their act. Dridam pralabdhas trapaya cha hapita prasto bhita kridana vachak karita vastrani chaiva prahritanya thapyamum tanabhya suyan priya sangha nirvrita. Although the gopis had been thoroughly cheated, deprived of their modesty, ridiculed, and made to act just like toy dolls, and although their clothing had been stolen, they did not feel at all inimical towards Sri Krishna. Rather, they were simply joyful to have this opportunity to associate with their beloved. Srila Prabhupada comments, this attitude of the gopis is described by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he prays, "My dear Lord Krishna, you may embrace me or trample me under your feet, or you may make me broken-hearted by never being present before me. Whatever you like, you can do, because you have complete freedom to act. But in spite of all your dealings, you are my Lord eternally. I have no other worshipable object." This is the attitude of the gopis toward Krishna. Pridhaya svavasamsi preshta sangama sajjita grihita chitta no chelus tasmin lajjayite kshana. The gopis were addicted to associating with their beloved Krishna, and thus they became captivated by him. Thus, even after putting their clothes on, they did not move. They simply remained where they were, shyly glancing at him. By associating with their beloved Krishna, the gopis had become more attached to him than ever. Just as Krishna had stolen their clothes, he had also stolen their minds and their love. The gopis interpreted the whole incident as proof that Krishna was also attached to them. Otherwise, why would he have gone to the trouble of playing with them in this way? Because they thought that Krishna was now attached to them, they glanced at him with shyness. And being stunned by the rising of their ecstatic love, they could not move from where they stood. Krishna had overcome their shyness and forced them to come out of the water naked. But now, having dressed properly, they again became shy in his presence. In fact, this incident increased their humbleness before Krishna. They did not want Krishna to see them staring at him, but they cautiously took the opportunity to glance at the Lord. Tasam vijnana bhagavan swapada sparsha kamyaya dritavratanam sankalpam aha damodaro bala. The Supreme Lord understood the determination of the gopis in executing their strict vow. The Lord also knew that the girls desired to touch his lotus feet, and thus Lord Damodar, Krishna, spoke to them as follows. Sankalpo vidita sadhyo bhavatinam mad archanam mayanumodita soso satyo bhavitam arhati. Lord Krishna said, O saintly girls, I understand that your real motive in this austerity has been to worship me. That intent of yours is approved by me, and indeed it must come to pass. Just as Krishna is free of all impure desires, so are the gopis. Their attempt to gain Krishna as their husband was therefore motivated not by a desire for personal sense gratification, but by their overwhelming desire to serve Krishna and to please him. Because of their intense love, the gopis did not see Krishna as God, but rather as the most wonderful boy in all creation. And being beautiful young girls, they desired only to please him by loving service. Lord Krishna understood the pure desire of the gopis and was thus satisfied. The Lord could certainly not be satisfied by ordinary lust, but he was moved by the intense loving devotion of the cowherd girls of Vrindavan. Namaya veshita dhyam kama kamaya kalpate varjita kvatitha dana prayo bijaya neshate. The desire of those who fix their minds on me does not lead to material desire for sense gratification. Just as barley corns burned by the sun and then cooked can no longer grow into new sprouts. The words Maya Veshita Dhyam are very significant here. Unless one has achieved an advanced degree of devotion, one cannot fix the mind and intelligence on Krishna, since Krishna is pure spiritual existence. Self-realization is a state not of desirelessness, but rather of purified desire, wherein one desires only the pleasure of Lord Krishna. The gopis were certainly attracted to Krishna in a mood of conjugal love, and yet having fixed their minds and indeed their entire existence completely on Krishna, their conjugal desire could never manifest as material lust. Rather, it became the most exalted form of love of God ever seen within this universe. Yata balavrajam siddha maye maras ram yatha kshapa yad uddishya vratam idam cheru aryarchanam sati. Go now, girls, and return to Vraja. Your desire is fulfilled, for in my company you will enjoy the coming nights. After all, this was the purpose of your vow to worship Goddess Katyayani, O pure-hearted ones. Shri Shukha Vacha Iti Adishta Bhagavata Labdha Kama Kumarika Dhyayantyastat Padam Bhojam Kritra Nirvivishur Rajam. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the young girls, the desire now fulfilled, could bring themselves only with great difficulty to return to the village of Braj, meditating all the while upon his lotus feet. The gopis' desire was fulfilled because Lord Krishna had agreed to act as her husband. A young girl can never spend the night with any man except her husband, and thus when Krishna agreed to engage the girls in the nocturnal rasa dance during the coming autumn season, he was agreeing to reciprocate their love for him in the role of a husband. Atha gopai parivrito bhagavan devaki sutta vrindavanagato duram charayanga sahagraja. Sometime later, Lord Krishna, the son of Devaki, surrounded by his coward friends and accompanied by his elder brother, Balaram, went a good distance away from Vrindavan herding the cows. Having described how Lord Krishna stole the garments of the young gopis, Shukadeva Goswami now begins introducing the description of Lord Krishna's blessings upon the wives of some ritualistic brahmanas. Nidaghar kartape tigme chayabhi swabhir atmana atapatrayitan viksha druman aha vrajaukasha. When the sun's heat became intense, Lord Krishna saw that the trees were acting as umbrellas, shading him, and thus he spoke as follows to his boyfriends. He Stoka Krishna, he Amsho, Sridama, Sridaman Subalarjuna, Vishala Vrishabhao, Jaswin, Deva Prashtha, Varutapa, Pasataitan Mahabhagan, Pararthan Kanta Jivitan, Vata Varshatapa Himan, Sahanto Varayantina. Lord Krishna said, O Sukha Krishna and Amshu, O Sridama, Subala and Arjuna, O Rishabha, O Jasvi, Devaprashtha, and Varutapa, just see these greatly fortunate trees whose lives are completely dedicated to the benefit of others. Even while tolerating the wind, rain, and heat and snow, they protect us from these elements. Lord Krishna was preparing to bestow his mercy on the wives of the hearted ritualistic brahmanas. In these verses, the Lord indicates that even trees who are dedicated to the welfare of others are superior to the brahmanas who are not. Certainly, the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should soberly study this point. Aho yesham varam janma sarva pranyupa jivanam sujanesh yeva yesham vai vimukhayanti narthina. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities. For anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita. Patra pushpam phalam chhaya mula valkala darubhi gandha niryasa bhasmasti tokmai kaman vitanvate. These trees fulfill one's desire with their leaves, flowers, and fruits, their shade, roots, bark, and wood, and also with their fragrant sap, ashes, pulp, and shoots. Etavat janma safalyam dehinam iha dehisu prainerartha diya vacha shreyat acharanam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 942. Iti pravala stabaka phala pushpa dalot kare tarunam namras akhanam madhyato yamunam gata. Thus moving among the trees whose branches were bent low by their abundance of twigs, fruits, flowers, and leaves, Lord Krishna came to the Yamuna river. Tatraga paya yitvapa sumrisha sitala shiva tato nripa swayam gopa kamam svadu papurjalam. The cowherd boys let the cows drink the clear, cool, and wholesome water of the Yamuna. O King Parikshit, the cowherd boys themselves also drank that sweet water to their full satisfaction. Tasya upavane kamam charayanta pashunripa Krishna Rama upagamya Kshudarta idam abhruvan. Then, O king, the coward boys began herding the animals in a leisurely way within a small forest along the Yamuna. But soon they became afflicted by hunger, and approaching Krishna and Balaram spoke as follows. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the coward boys were concerned that Krishna would be hungry, and thus they feigned their own hunger, so that Krishna and Balaram would make suitable arrangements to eat. Thus ends the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Krishna Steals the Garments of the Unmarried Gopis. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jai Hare Krishna.